Greetings, and welcome to Skylanders Portalcasters, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything Skylanders. I'm your host, Inklander, and I'm joined today by my co-host, GFDitto. And in today's penultimate episode of the season, we are going to be discussing Skystones. Ditto, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself, Inklander?
Doing really well, and I think this is going to be a pretty fun topic to talk about. Skystones is pretty much the most prominent minigame in Skylanders, and it's really going to be fun to talk about.
Yes, actually, it should be a lot of fun. I'd like to start this segment by pointing out that Spyro's Adventure technically had the predecessor to Skystones. The Pirate Seas level introduced pirate cards, which was a basic matching game, but I feel like that's kind of where they decided, okay, we need a card-style minigame to go in the future releases as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think even when you parallel it to how Skystones got introduced in Giants with Cutthroat Carnival, that is a level where you have pirates, and it's kind of a very similar theme to it. And, you know, pirates are introducing you to the game and everything like that. So I feel like there was like a parallel there. It seems like there was a connection where it's like, oh, the pirates originally started out with pirate cards, but now they've kind of gone and revamped it into their own game and have turned it into Skystones in Giants. So, you know, I definitely see that parallel there.
Absolutely.
And while pirate cards, I guess, is fun, it's definitely not nearly as enjoyable as some of the versions of Skystones can be.
Well, of course, and that's because one is literally just a game of memory, and the other kind of evolved over time.
Yes, very true.
Now, the Skystones and Skylanders Giants, they are a square-shaped card with different amounts of, I would say, claws?
I don't remember exactly how the game officially describes them, but yes, the triangle things on the top and the side and the bottom of the cards.
And those kind of determine how much power each card has in each direction. This game is very reminiscent of Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII, and I think that's where they drew the inspiration for it from. But it's a really simple, really fun to play kind of little board game thing.
Yeah, I like this one. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's not overly hard to beat. I think maybe some of the later levels can be, but yeah, for the most part, it just has a little bit of strategy to it. And as for Final Fantasy, I'm not really familiar with the franchise, so I'm not quite able to agree on whether they took inspiration from it or not. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty just fun, simple mini game that is really cool. It's fun, you know, you get a little bit of strategy by trying to figure out, you know, where your opponent might place the cards and where you need to strategically place the cards. And you also get a little bit of elemental alignment on some of the boards as well, where you have to place like a fire element stone in a certain space sometimes, depending on the board. So there's a little bit of variation in strategy there. But yeah, for the most part, it's fun. I do enjoy the version in Giants, but it can get a little boring and a little repetitive at times, especially those earlier ones.
Yeah, the original Skystones can get a little boring if you're repeating the same level over and over again, and it just so happens to have a requirement of Skystones. But when you're playing it voluntarily, it has the potential to be a lot of fun, as long as you don't overdo it.
Yes, I would agree with that. And it is cool to see how your collection can change over time, and you keep getting more stones the more you play with people as well, and that does add a little bit of replayability to it, because I do believe there's even a speedrunning category of like Skystones %. So, you know, there's kind of a cool little side thing to it for speedrunning as well. So there is some replayability to it, and it is fun. But yeah, it is to a point. It's only so far. I do think you can overdo the Giants version of Skystones, definitely.
Then sadly, Swap Force would abandon the idea altogether and not include it. All the content that was available in Swap Force, and they didn't give us any version of Skystones at all whatsoever.
Just another mistake that Vicarious Visions has made.
Exactly. It's kind of disappointing as well. So we're going to jump forward one more game to Skylanders Trap Team, where we had Skystones Smash.
Yes, exactly. Not to be confused with Smash Bros. Very different game. But yeah, Skystone Smash is actually pretty fun. I really like it. It's a big revamp of Skystones from the way that we originally saw it, because the first version of Skystones very much was just a pretty kind of bare bones minigame. Like, it's fun, but again, not that much replayability. But yeah, so here you can see them almost take inspiration from Magic the Gathering. It has a similar kind of layout in a way. And of course, probably around this time, Blizzard also had Hearthstone in development as well, since I think that came out in like 2015, I believe. So that was around the corner. So I'm sure that Activision Blizzard as a whole was kind of experimenting with different card game formats. And I think it's pretty clear the Magic the Gathering kind of inspiration here, and that it was also very similar to another game they had in production, being Hearthstone at the time. So it's pretty cool. And there's a lot of replayability here, because now instead of having like a tic-tac-toe kind of laid out board, instead we now have like a play area where you're able to lay out different cards to attack different cards, and then if there isn't a card in the way of that card, then you're able to deal damage directly to the enemy opponent. So your objective this time is to not just like have the most cards on the board by the end of the match in your control, but now the objective is to like basically bring your opponent's health down to 0, which is very typical for pretty much most any kind of TCG.
Yes, and with the inclusion of a stone for every villain in Trap Team, the deck customization options were pretty well open, and it made for a lot of fun to put together your Skystones deck.
Yeah, and even some stones now had their own special abilities where they might be able to, you know, heal some cards, give them more health. The cards now also having health, as also typical of TCGs, and also being able to deal damage and having like specific damage numbers instead of like the triangles, which granted the triangles were also specific numbers, but they're just displayed in a different way. But yeah, like they actually now were able to give them like attack and health, and they also gave them special abilities in some cases as well to be able to help you turn the tide of the battle depending on what you drew from your deck. And this time you didn't have access to all of your Skystones immediately either, because in the original Skystones you were able to see all 5 of your stones immediately. But in this version, you're actually drawing from a deck and you're pulling them out randomly, which is also a whole new thing that you're having to deal with as well, because there's some RNG involved.
Absolutely, which made it a lot more exciting and added a lot more replayability than the original Skystones, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this one's a whole lot more exciting. It's really fun. I think that this would make a very good mini game if they ever wanted to release this on an app store, if they wanted to release it on the Switch or on console even, maybe on PC through Steam or something. Like, this version of Skystones is actually pretty fun, and if they ever wanted to expand on it, which they actually do in the next game, but if they ever wanted to expand on it outside of Skylanders and make it its own spin-off, I think that'd be pretty cool. But speaking of them expanding on it, in Skylanders Superchargers, we actually saw them change up these mechanics a little bit more by adding in even more unique abilities to cards, and also by adding in vehicle cards, which were a special card that changed based on what vehicle you had on the portal at the time, which would be able to be played every 3 turns. And that added yet another thing to Skystones in this version in Superchargers called Skystones Overdrive.
Yes, Skystone's Overdrive was so much bigger than Skystone's Smash, and it was improved in various ways. But the sheer number of cards available for your Skystones deck was immense. And it made for the most customizable Skystones game we have seen yet.
Yeah, I don't even remember how many were unlockable in the final game. I think it was definitely well over 100.
Oh, it was easily well over 100.
Yeah, and they all felt unique, they all felt fun, and we were able to get Skystones for villains again. We were able to get Skystones for NPCs we hadn't seen in a while. Like, there's a Snaggle Scale Skystone. Geez, try saying that 5 times fast. Like, they had a lot of variety there, and one thing that I even really liked about it is that when Superchargers initially got leaked on Amazon through that Amazon listing for pre-orders, one of the things that was listed as being part of the starter pack was Hot Steak, which was this like mistake. It was a typo. It was supposed to say hot streak, but the development team of Superchargers picked up on that mistake and actually made a hot steak Skystone, where it was basically a T-bone with wheels. And that got implemented into the game, and I thought that was really kind of funny. So they even have something like that in there that was just like hearkening to the hardcore Skylanders fans of like, hey, look at this, we pay attention to the forums and to the boards, and we pay attention to the leaks and stuff, so we know. I thought that was kind of fun, and that was much appreciated.
And the hot steak card actually is a very, very good one to use in your deck.
That's very true. That's very true as well. So I think it's pretty fun that they added that in and included that. So there's a lot of replayability, a lot of customization, and honestly, the vehicles are kind of cool. Like, you don't know exactly when you or your opponent might want to use them, because they can only be used sparingly every couple turns. So you're only really going to see vehicle cards get played by each person once or twice in a game. And they're like these kind of OP cards that are able to really wreak some havoc, or, depending on whatever the ability is, like they're able to massively change up the game. So it's always kind of interesting to get that additional, almost random element thrown in, where it's like, okay, what exactly is going to happen? When is this going to get played? And how much could it mess me up and potentially cause me to drastically lose when I'm winning? That was a really cool thing that they threw in there and just made the whole game a little bit more exciting.
And then moving forward to the final installment of the Skylanders series, Skylanders Imaginators, they went back to the basics with Creation Clash, which was a reimagining of the original Skystones game, only your deck wasn't customizable, and instead of elemental spots on the tic-tac-toe board, there would occasionally be a battle class spot, which would make whatever card you place there matching that battle class have 4 attack in every direction.
Right, yeah. I would say that it supercharged them, but can't really say that when I'm talking about Skylanders, because that's a different game entirely. But yeah, it just basically made them really super overpowered. And other than that, that's really the only difference, honestly, between that version and the Giants version. That and that you're not able to customize it. And yeah, it was kind of disappointing, honestly, because Skystones just kept getting more and more exciting with each iteration, and then Toys for Bob, for some reason, decided to go back to the basics, and it just wasn't very good. I think the reason for it, I guess, is because they had also done I don't even remember back when it was. I think it might have been back during Trap Team. They had that promotion with the cereal where you were able to get like physical Skystones cards, and it was based around the Giants version, not the Trap Team version. And I don't know, I guess they figured that was the most well recognizable, or the most, like, I don't know, the fan favorite Skystones, and so they decided to re-implement it in Imaginators. But yeah, it was a really weird choice, because that's my least favorite version of Skystones, and I think most people would also agree with that. And it was pretty disappointing to see that, because they went from having this really cool, really complex minigame, like side mode kind of thing. Not really a side mode, more so a minigame, but they had this like fully fleshed out minigame in Trap Team and Superchargers, and then they just kind of went back on it. It was kind of disappointing.
It was a little bit disappointing, and it felt a lot more tedious to play even than the original Giants version in a lot of cases. It just moved so slowly, and in levels where it's required, especially if you're in the middle of a speed run, it just kind of brings down the energy a little bit.
Yeah, and you also bring up a whole thing that we didn't even touch on yet, is required Skystones, because that happens in all the Toys for Bob games, but it doesn't happen in the Vicarious Visions ones.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting, because I kind of really prefer Skystones as this like optional thing that you're able to do in the hub, or as like an extra thing in a level. Like, I like how you're able to just go out of your way and do that, as opposed to having to like actually sit down and play through a game in order to progress forward. It just kind of slows down the whole pace of the level, and it kind of pulls you out of the theming and what they're trying to do with that level. So I actually kind of prefer, in this case, the way that Vicarious Visions chose to implement it, where they'd have it off on a side path, or just someone else that you could go talk to off on the level, or have it in the hub with Chaos, as opposed to like having you have to like play through it. It's basically a battle gate, but for a mini game. It's kind of weird.
And honestly, I would say that Skystones Overdrive is the best Skystones game there is. It's the definitive way to play Skystones with how expansive and customizable it is. It's simple yet complex at the same time, and it's really just overall the most enjoyable Skystones experience in my opinion.
Yes, yeah. And as I said earlier, like I really would like to see either a fan project, maybe someone can get this going, that's listening to the podcast, or maybe hopefully Toys for Bob. Like it'd be really cool to see like some sort of version of Skystones come to mobile or PC or both or Switch or something. It'd be really cool to see some sort of project happen where we're able to have like an online Skystones where we're able to play with each other, because it's really fun. It has a lot of different variety in it, and if this actually got turned into a full-fledged game, I'm sure there'd be hundreds of different cards, a couple more mechanics they could throw in with the Overdrive kind of style, and it'd be really cool to kind of see what could happen if they chose to iterate off of that version of Skystones. It'd be a lot of fun. And it's especially weird that we haven't seen that really, because they ended up going and doing Skylanders Battlecast, and that was like a completely different game. That was really strange, honestly, because like you had physical cards, but like it couldn't really easily be played physically. Like you could, but you just have to kind of keep count with like pen and paper because the numbers and everything were so high. So that was weird. And like it was really designed to be like a mobile app, and even the mobile app I guess was fun, but it wasn't really that enjoyable. And that's weird too, because they had people and designers working from the Hearthstone team on that game. So I don't really know what happened there. I don't know what went wrong, especially because they already had like a card game so ingrained in Skylanders lore. It's kind of weird that they didn't just take Skystones as a base and work on that, because I feel like that would have gotten way more positive reception to it. So I don't know, it was kind of weird that they chose to go with Battlecast, because it had strange mechanics, especially considering they already had a card game implemented in Skylanders. They could have just drawn from that and expanded it. So kind of odd they went that direction. I can see a legendary treasure off behind this kind of battle gate looking thing, but oh no, it's not a battle gate. It's that we have to talk to the person in front of the gate to be able to unlock it for us by beating them in a game of Skystones. So we're going to play that game of Skystones real quick before we head off into collecting that legendary treasure for Legendary Treasure Hunt.
And now that we've won our game of Skystones and snagged that legendary treasure, it's time to start our legendary treasure hunt for the week. The legendary treasure hunt is a segment where we try to find the best bargain possible for Skylanders. This week's challenge was to find a lot with the most Battlecast packs, with a maximum price of $20. The scoring for this week is a little bit different, because we've decided to score this out as 2 points for each Battlecast 22-card battle pack, 1 point for every 8-card booster pack in the lot, 1/2 point for every $5 under the price limit, and as always, minus 1/2 point for every Shroom Boom in the lot. And as always, I have one extra special bonus point I can use for whatever I see fit. So Inklander, why don't you tell me a little bit about the lot you found this week?
Right, so I found a pretty impressive deal, I'd say. I think a lot of the deals that you end up finding for Skylanders Battlecast are going to tend to be pretty good, because the game did pretty much flop, so you're able to find a lot of that stuff new in box pretty cheap, I'd say. But for me, I managed to find a crazy deal, in that I found 26 different booster packs unopened for $18.99. I'm still like kind of baffled by it, but it's a pretty good deal. If you're trying to get a lot of Battlecast cards, then you definitely should get this lot, that's for sure.
That is a very impressive lot you found there. And your lot scores out at 26 points for the 26 different booster packs, You are only $1 under the price limit, so no price bonuses there. And since that's such a good lot, I will go ahead and give you the extra special bonus point, bringing your total to a whopping 27 points. Wow.
So, Ditto, what about you? What did you find for your lot this week?
Now, my lot was found on eBay as well, and my lot contains 9 of the 8-card booster packs, still new in box, for a total of $19.99. So not nearly as impressive as yours. You have literally just about triple the card packs that I do for $1 less, which is kind of what made your lot so impressive, actually. Scoring out my lot gains 9 points for the 9 booster packs, and I'm right there at the price point, so I also don't get any bonuses for price points, bringing my total to 9. And that means that this week's winner is Inklander with a whopping 27 points to my 9. Triple my score this week.
Like, this challenge, I was not expecting to find this good of a deal. But, one of the reasons why we set the price limit so low is because Battlecast cards are pretty cheap to find. But, I mean, hey, both of us still managed to find really good deals, especially if you're trying to get all the Battlecast cards still, and if you're trying to add all those to your collection as a Skylanders collector or as just a TCG collector, then, both of these are actually really good deals to pick up, even though mine's just such a giant increase in cards. Like, these are still really good prices because I think these booster packs were initially going for, $5.99, somewhere around there. So the fact that you'd be able to get 9 or 26 of them for $20, both are really good deals.
Oh, absolutely.
Good game, Ditto, as always.
Yes, good game, Inklander. And now with our legendary treasure, our cards, and our Skystones in hand, let's go aboard the Dread Yacht and see if Flynn wants to play a couple rounds.
So we've been playing some rounds of Skystones with Flynn, and it turns out he's actually pretty good, but sadly, in his absence from the rest of ship operations, he kind of neglected to tell someone else to take the wheel, so we kind of took a nosedive and crash-landed into the level this week, being Cutthroat Carnival from Skylanders Giants. The Cutthroat Carnival I kind of like. Particularly, I really like the theming of the level. I like the pirate theme. I like the carnival theme of it. I think having all these ships kind of integrated into the level is pretty cool. And also, I do have to give a shout out to the music. I think the Cutthroat Carnival theme is probably one of the best tracks from Giants. It's up there with the main theme. It's up there with Junkyard Isles. I really do like it. It's pretty good. It's pretty fun. The Skystones music's also really good as well. So I think the music for this level is really on point. But I do think there's some issues with this level. But overall, the theming and I think the battle gates and the enemies and some of the fights and even some of the block puzzles are a lot of fun. But there is kind of a big overarching issue here.
The real issue with this level is the amount of times that your journey is interrupted to play Skystones. I think this happens, I want to say, somewhere between 3 and 5 times in the level. I've kind of shut out the memory of how many times it happens, and they're all required.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We're talking about this level, obviously, because this is the Skystones episode, and we wanted to do one of the levels where Skystones gets introduced, and we figured, hey, why not just do the original one where Skystones originally gets introduced, and it's fun. The tutorial here isn't as overbearing as it is, as say, in, Trap Team, where you can't skip it, and you just have to sit there every time and listen to, this is a Skystone. Here, the tutorial's a little bit faster, it feels a little bit, quicker. It doesn't feel like you're stuck on it for a long time. But then you're required to play Skystones again, and then again, and then again. I honestly don't remember the number either, but it feels like a lot. And so by the time you get to the end and you're on that last Skystones match with Dreadbeard, I believe, it's just like, oh boy. Like it feels like it just takes forever, and it really takes you out of the rest of the level, because I think the rest of the level is actually pretty fun. You got some fights, you got some block puzzles, you got a couple fun, tricky areas where some stuff's hidden. But yeah, the Skystones just is really pushed down your throat in this level. I really would have preferred it if it gets introduced like once, and then maybe along the way you get a couple times where it's optional, and then you have to play it again at the end. But no, it just keeps coming at you in this one, and I do like Skystones, but again, as we've talked about, this isn't the best version of Skystones. Like, it wouldn't feel as bad if this was like Skystones Overdrive. I mean, even then it'd be a little obnoxious if you're having to like be required to play this game if you don't want to play it. But yeah, still it is a little overbearing.
Yeah, it's really overbearing, and it does really just pull you out of the level. It feels like they were trying to replicate what they did with pirate cards back in Pirate Seas, when you had to play that a number of times as well in the one level. And I just really didn't appreciate that part of it. The theming around the level is great. The overall aesthetics of the level are great. Even the story of the level isn't bad. But the Skystones really kind of destroy the experience.
Although I will say that this entire level is basically Flynn's fault.
What do you mean, basically?
Oh, it is Flynn's fault. Like, sure, I'll be more specific with it. If he had paid off his debts, we wouldn't have gotten in the situation where we would have had to have played Skystones.
It's true. It's all Flynn's fault. We should make him play the Skystones for us.
I know, I agree. It's just, but yeah, like the plot's good. Like, you know, it adds more character to Flynn, and the pirates all feel pretty fun and unique. And like we have Bowers at the beginning, we got Dreadbeard at the end, and like they kind of have this like realization as it goes on, like, oh, this is like, you know, oh, you're with Flynn. This like Flynn owes us money. There's just a lot of good like story moments in this, even though it's not really that connected to the overall plot. They just kind of needed a level to throw Skystones in. But I do agree that like I think the biggest downfall of this level is just how many times you have to play Skystones, and I think the reason why it works with pirate cards and Pirate Seas, but it doesn't work with Skystones here, is because the pirate cards is literally just a matching game. It's something that you can do in like 20-30 seconds depending on the difficulty level of it. Like, it doesn't take you that long. Meanwhile, Skystones, like, you know, you want to be a little bit more engaged, and with all the UI and animations that it has, like, that's going to take you a couple minutes to be able to play through each match. But with pirate cards, it was pretty quick and pretty snappy. But I think that's really kind of what brings down this level, is because they were trying to replicate what they were doing with pirate cards, where they have you play it multiple times throughout the entire level. But I think it really fell flat because you spend minutes upon minutes having to play it, and I think that kind of really takes you out of the whole environment of the level.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, but overall, I do like it, and I do have to say that cutscene at the end where we just leave Blobbers behind is kind of funny. It's building him up as the ultimate villain, of course, for Skylanders 7, so you know, we see that referenced in Lost Imaginite Minds too, where like they have that whole flashback sequence, and it like flashes back to when we leave Blobbers behind with the pirates and Cutthroat Carnival. So like that cutscene's kind of just it's funny. It's sad, poor Blobbers, but hey, it's building him up to be a great Disney villain.
Dr. Blobbenschmertz.
Yes, there we go. Now that we've left Blobbers behind, we're heading back to the Academy. But first, it looks like we need to stop off and make a couple more repairs to the Dread Yacht at the Archean Arena.
And the Dread Yacht touches down rather roughly, as can be expected with how in need of repairs it is. But we have landed in the Archean Arena, where we pit Skylander against Skylander in a bout of theoretical combat. Inklander, who is the Skylander you have chosen to champion for you today?
The Skylander that I have chosen to bring to the Archean Arena this week is Starstrike. Starstrike is a magic ranged Skylander with a health of 780, a critical hit of 58, armor of 29, speed of 38, and luck of 28. Her primary attack is called Stargate, which I just think is a very funny name. It has to be a reference to Stargate SG-1. It has to be. There's no way it's not, but Stargate deals 36 damage initially, but it can deal 45 damage on the return as it comes back to Starstrike. Attack 2 is Cosmic Twirl, where Starstrike spins, and this deals 18 damage, but if it's bouncing back Stargate, it can deal 63 damage. And then her tertiary attack is Starfall, which causes stars to fall down from the sky, which deals 16 damage repeatedly, with potentially, depending on the path, a 56 damage finisher. So for her different paths, her top path is Stargazer, where Starfall causes a massive explosion to happen. It deals more damage and can be used twice. Meanwhile, her bottom path, Cosmic Reflector, will have attack 1 shoot a star projectile, and pressing attack 2 will cause 2 smaller projectiles to be hit out when Stargate returns. Starstrike's armor is increased, and whenever a Stargate projectile returns and is deflected, it will grow larger and deal increased damage. So Starstrike is a really fun character. It's going to really confuse me saying Stargate as her primary attack, just because it just makes me think of the wormhole, but I'll deal with it. But Ditto, what about you? Who's the character that you brought to the Arcane Arena this week?
So the Skylander I am summoning the champion for me today is none other than Blizzard Chill.
Ooh, okay.
Blizzard Chill is a ranged water element Skylander with a maximum health at level 20 of 780, critical hit 60, armor 35, speed 38, and luck 30. Her attack 1 is called Ice Javelin, which throws a spinning ice javelin, dealing 42 points of damage. Her attack 2 is Ice Wall, which summons a wall of ice blocks, which can be used for protection or to knock back enemies, and deal 22 points of damage. And her third attack is Glacial Bash, which uses her shield to bash enemies and ice wall blocks, dealing 28 points of damage. For her upgrade paths, her top path is called Ice Lancer, which allows for attack 1 to spread, throwing 3 javelins at one time, gaining increased damage, and further spreading when passing through the ice wall. So if all 3 javelins hit the ice wall, it splits into 9. Her Frozen Fury allows for her ice wall blocks to explode, and for attack 3 to gain a wider area. Chill is a really, really immensely fun character to play as. She's one of my go-tos for ranged characters, especially with the spreading attacks, because she can cover a lot of area and a lot of range with minimal effort. And she's just a lot of fun, and I do mean a lot of fun to play as. You can summon the ice walls and knock those around and keep the enemies away. And with her soul gem, you can even charge up her attack 1 to summon a narwhal to kind of dash through enemies for massive amounts of damage. Granted, that has a little bit of a charge time to it, but it's still a really, really cool thing to see happen.
That is true. Chill and Blizzard Chill, definitely a pretty formidable character here. However, I do think that even with her being able to combo, depending on that path with the ice walls, to be able to have the ice javelin split up into multiple different smaller versions, I do think that Starstrike is going to be able to better combo some of these attacks, because Starstrike's going to be able to constantly throw out the Stargate ability just as fast as Chill is going to be able to throw out those javelins. But the big thing is that Starstrike's primary and secondary attacks are able to really kind of play off of each other, whether they're even on a path or not. Because while, yes, Stargate's initially going to deal about 10 points less of damage than the Ice Javelin, those attacks are also going to be returning back on that same trajectory to Starstrike, and Starstrike's going to be able to hit them back. And if the Cosmic Twirl impacts with the Stargate, that's going to actually increase the Cosmic Twirl's amount of damage drastically. So if Chill tries to get close, that's going to be an amazing amount of damage. But the thing is that damage is also going to be reflected into the actual projectile, into that actual Stargate projectile, which will then be hit out again and be able to deal way more damage, about double the amount of damage that it was able to do before, when it was just initially sent out the first time. So we're going to have these projectiles that Starstrike's sending out keep getting more and more damage built up onto it. And the thing is that Starstrike's able to send out multiple of these and keep parrying multiple of these over and over and over again, to the point where she's going to be able to keep throwing them out. And even if she misses being able to parry some of these, like, she's going to be able to just keep constantly dealing out damage here by continuing to combo that first and secondary attack here. And while Starfall is kind of okay, like, it only deals 16 damage, and depending on if I decide to go with one of those paths or not, I could get that 56 damage finisher. Like, that does take a while to charge up, much like the Narwhal, but the Starfall will try to home in around Chill to be able to try to hit Chill and surround Chill as those continue to drop. But the primary thing that I'm going to be dealing with here is trying to combo the first and secondary attack, which Starstrike's very much set up to do in order to keep building on that damage and keep trying to attack Chill like that and be able to really get a lot of damage out on the field directed towards Chill at one particular time.
Now, one thing that would make this match a lot harder to call is the fact that Starstrike's primary attack is timing-based, at least when trying to build it up. So if your timing is even a little bit off, it's not going to increase in power at all. That's one factor. Now, granted, an experienced enough Portal Master that has used Starstrike enough isn't really going to have to worry too much about this, because for the most part, all their parries are going to hit. The other thing that I forgot to actually mention that would actually really play in Chill's favor in this case is the fact that you can hold that attack 3 and she will hold her shield in front of her to block attacks from the front. So if Starstrike is coming at me directly from the front with those essentially ping pong balls, Blizzard Chill would have the opportunity to just deflect them with no damage. Then there's the fact that Starstrike can be pushed back just by summoning ice walls and smashing them real quick with the same shielding attack, which doesn't deal a whole lot of damage, but it provides a little bit more distance, and Chill's range is a little bit higher than Starstrike's. And I could also use those ice walls defensively because I could summon them in between Starstrike and Chill, and Starstrike's attacks wouldn't be able to just go through them. So if I were to go bottom path and have the exploding walls, that would be potentially very effective. I wouldn't necessarily... Normally, I would always take Chill top path because these spreading javelins, but in this case, I feel as though the bottom path would be more effective because the most I'm going to get out of the spreading javelins against a character like Starstrike, the absolute optimum most is going to be 3 hits out of 9. So I think increasing the length of the wall, which happens naturally along the upgrade path anyway, and having walls that explode and deal more damage, I think would be the better way to go. And then just trying to snipe through the walls that Starstrike can't snipe through.
Well, while that is true, the thing is I could go with the top path Stargazer, and I'd be able to upgrade my Starfall ability. And with the ice blocks being able to kind of maybe hinder my ability to initially get some of my shots around them, I'd still be able to take the 2 or 3 seconds to be able to charge up Starfall, and especially if I'm able to use it 2 times kind of back to back, be able to have all those homing attacks and be able to hit Chill from above, which would kind of avoid her tertiary attack, and also I'd get that 56 damage finisher. So with all that in mind, like, I'd be able to deal a couple hundred damage right there by actually staying in pretty far away range from any of Chill's attacks.
That's very true, but I also feel like while you're charging up that Starfall attack, would be a great time to charge up the Narwhal and send it your way as well.
That's true, although the Narwhal is also pretty easy to avoid.
That's very true, but should it connect, that's a massive amount of damage. And one thing I'm noticing a lot in this battle is there's a whole lot of what-ifs. Almost as though these two characters are actually fairly evenly matched.
That is true. I would say so. Because I do play as Starstrike a decent amount, and I feel like I'd be able to play her pretty well to be able to get a lot of those attacks parrying and being able to build up damage. And also, I tend to prefer the Stargazer path anyway, to be able to have all those homing attacks, and to be able to help that tertiary attack be buffed up a little bit more to be able to deal some more damage. And it's also homing. So, I do think that I'd probably be able to play Starstrike here pretty decently well and be able to be a pretty good match for Chill.
I do believe that as well. I don't feel like I can really call a winner on this one. So for the champion of this week's Archean Arena, I'm going to have to call this a draw. But you, please be sure to tell us how you think this would have played out in the comments section below.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. You'll find our website and our individual channels listed in the description. Follow our Twitter at SLPortalcasters for regular updates about the podcast, and join our Discord server for Skylanders discussions. Thank you for listening, and in the next episode, we'll be joined by SCL Matt to discuss Skylanders hunting for our season finale. See you then. Bye.
How many times is that this season that we've crash landed the Dread Yacht?
Quite a few, I would say. So, Flynn's piloting skills have been getting a lot better, right, Flynn?